ready? Aya, Maximo,
Yeah.
everyone else ready? So the goal is to enjoy this nice weather that we're outdoor in Dubai, and to have maybe a complex topic simplified, because less is more, and I'm a big believer in the quote, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So I hope you all help me make this a nice and entertaining and very useful conversation. Cool? All right, so we'll start with Haya and we'll move forward. Please introduce yourself, and in one or two sentences, what climate action means to you.
I thought you were going to ask me how am I doing.
Yeah, I know. I think people want me to ask that, but not on this chair. There's another chair for that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So I'm a young person who cares. An actionist, maybe, as COP28 like to call it. But when I went into the field and when I started to study water environmental engineering, sustainability wasn't yet a trend. It wasn't cool. But I really cared, and since then I have been engaged in empowering youth and raising capacities for youth all among the MENA region in terms of basic knowledge of sustainability and climate change, and then more of raising advocacy on what youth can lead different various projects, and then raising public policy recommendations to decision makers. So we founded the Arab Youth Council for Climate Change that has impacted around 7,000 youth all over the world, trying to personalize the cause and make sure that youth understand that this is not a far-fetched topic, but rather something that's very relevant to our day-to-day life.
Very nicely put. Maximo. We don't talk about Messi now.
Yeah, Messi.
That's after me and you will talk about football later.
I had a discussion there, Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, like 5 minutes
I heard.
ago.
I heard.
Well, I'm Maximo from Argentina. Thank you very much for inviting me and us. During the last 15 years, I've been working in the sustainability field. I started and co-started more than 40 initiatives, programs, non-profit and for-profit organizations. And nowadays I'm focused in massive and disruptive communication. We realized with a group of allies that we need to own some of the power of communication, because the ones who owns the narrative owns a lot of stuff. And we want to take the narrative to this world, this better world that we want to build all together. And the question was what climate actions means.
Yes. In the simplistic way, it's what climate action means to you personally.
Okay. I would add climate and ecological action, because at every COP happens, to me at least, that we forget about the biodiversity part and the importance of that, and it's everything or almost everything about reducing emissions, and that is not the key point only. So for me, climate action, well, apart from that, means constant. It's like a synonym of constant. Because we have change, everything changes all the time. We want to be sustainable. Sustainable is like keep things in time in a world that changes all the time. So there's a huge contradiction there. So how can we act every day, think every day, constantly, without stopping, in a world where all the variables are in equilibrium?
Yeah.
But yeah, there.
You know, there's a good, you are a good personal example of consistency. And I'll tell you, I just got to know you a few minutes ago, but you said something. You said you have passed, in more than 10 years, 4 national laws in Argentina, after how many rejections?
Elections?
Rejections.
No. The example was that
many times that you got rejected, but you kept going until you celebrated the approvals.
Yeah, environmental education is a very important thing. The first time I presented the first law to a congressman was when I was 18. And I keep coming. And once the whole environmental and climate thing was out there, not too long ago, he finally said, let's see, what's that? And we passed the law like 3 years ago. So I was very happy with that.
So for
Yeah,
me,
constant.
that is honestly a very good,
Yeah.
very simple.
With a lot of people all together, no?
It's a team effort, but I don't want to. Why I brought your example, not to just be nice to you, because one example of consistency and not giving up for 10 plus years gave you something. Many people would quit at the second rejection or the third rejection or the 13th rejection. But to be so passionate that it fuels you for 10 plus years and then finally you find somebody in a better mood to approve you, it's a good example, right? So thank you for that. Elizabeth,
Yeah.
your turn. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So my name is Elizabeth Simadala. I'm a Ugandan smallholder farmer and also an agripreneur. And the president of the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation, as I've already been introduced, but I also sit on the board of the Pan-Africa Farmers Organization. And I'm one of the, I would say, those lucky few youth who've been able to thrive in terms of leadership, being able to take on presidency at a regional farm organization and at a continental farm organization without being accorded affirmative action. And it's because organizations have moved a step further to recognize the importance of youth, especially in climate action and in transforming our food systems. And this is recognized through our gender and youth strategy, which really puts issues of youth at the forefront. And it's because of the technologies and the innovations that we youth are able to bring on board. I come from a sector that is that faces the biggest brunt when it comes to climate change, because we interact with nature on a day-to-day basis. And you are well aware of the impacts of climate change, especially coming from Africa, a continent whose agriculture sector is not cushioned at all. Today, it's either extreme wet shocks, or it's extreme cold shocks, it's fall armyworm, it's desert locusts, it's the cyclones, and so forth. So climate action for us means adaptation, because we have to adapt.
Yes.
And to adapt, we have to do it on a day-to-day basis. So that's why adaptation is key on our agenda as farmers, to be able to mitigate the impacts of climate change. Yes, so for me, that's what it means, climate action. We need to act. And the way we can act, coming from a farming constituency, is adaptation. We have several success stories in the field that we need to really put to scale. And we can do that through partnerships with institutions like PepsiCo. The other day I had them announcing some big resources they are putting into food systems transformation. So I believe these are the partnerships that we are looking for, that we are also ready, to work together on some of the working models that are in the field that we really need to scale.
I feel the really nice keywords that got highlighted with a highlighter in my brain while you're speaking is adaptation and mitigation. I think these are very good steps on sustainable change in this. Second question, I have to read twice because I just wanted to make it, I felt it was technical, but it's for Haya and Elizabeth, so we'll start with Haya. Why are programs that invest in climate innovation so important to advancing climate action? I can read it again. Why are programs that invest in climate innovation so important to advancing climate action?
Let's go back in time a bit, maybe. In 1903, I think a lot of you know this already, but in 1903, there was an investment that has been observed by the head of the Michigan State Bank on Ford, the car company. And he said, and I quote him, he said, "The horse is here to stay. The automobile is a novelty, a fad." 120 years later, we know that the horse is not here to stay. The automobile was. Maybe now we are trying even to make sure that the automobile is transformed. But the idea here is he said the statement at his best knowledge. This is what the best he knew back then. And it's this mindset that we need to tap into. We cannot solve yesterday's challenges we cannot solve today's challenges with yesterday's solutions. We cannot speak to future generations with the narrative of our ancestors. So we are yet to come into understanding that if we want to innovate, especially in the climate field, we need to advance these programs that speak the language of our generations. Let me ask you a question, and this is for everyone in the room. How much is the percentage of our national GDPs, and not one specific country, but overall, on average, that gets spent on R&D? 1%? Less than 1%? How much of that gets spent on green technologies? I'm pretty sure that the percentage falls way beyond this. If we don't tackle the problem from its source and we don't work on programs, I mean, the Loss and Damage Fund was great. Now we are hoping for doubling the Adaptation Fund. But if we don't tackle these programs, these problems from their source and develop these programs, it would be very hard for us to change that mindset that believes that the horse is here to stay.
Elizabeth?
I think I largely agree with Haya. The current generation has failed us. Yes, it has failed us. And we, as the youth or as young people, we are now saying, I think we need to be at the top of the game. But the other challenge is that we are only getting the shortest end of the stick, especially when it comes to decision making, when it comes to resources allocation, because we are not anywhere in the decision-making table, especially as youth. And also when it comes to deciding on who takes what, when it comes to resources. So I think the most important thing is to really give youth a voice, create those opportunities, create those spaces where youth can be consulted, where youth can contribute, and where youth can speak for themselves. I think quite often, most organizations, most people, our governments, civil society, NGOs, everyone is pretending to be speaking for the youth, as if they understand the youth problems. And this is what Haya was saying, that you cannot use the solutions of yesterday to address the challenges of today. So many changes have happened, several technologies, innovations, and the youth are really so quick to adjust. Our thinking is quite different from the thinking of our parents. And so we really need to acknowledge that. And I know some people normally say that the future is for the youth, but it's not the future. We are the youth of today. So we need to have solutions for today, for today's challenges. The future is for the next generation. And I'm really worried that the next generation is going to blame us for the challenges that we never caused because we failed to provide solutions. So we really need to see how we can create partnerships. I think we need to really resound that. Partnerships where youth are given special attention and special recognition, where we have specific funds that are targeting youth interventions, where we have mentors. Yes, we appreciate some of the champions that are doing a lot in terms of, reversing climate change through several adaptation solutions. But then how do we make sure that we transfer that kind of knowledge to the youth who are present today? And so that we can see this kind of knowledge going through generations. Because we also believe in traditional knowledge. It's been here for generations, and farmers and indigenous people have been practicing it. And it's very important. So how do we make sure that that kind of information and knowledge also is passed on to the next generations? I think we also need those champions to mentor several youth so that information can be moved on.
Thank you. This is for anybody. How can global stakeholders, such as multinational corporations, and this is a nice question because I feel it builds up on what you were just saying, Elizabeth. How can global stakeholders, such as multinational corporations and government agencies, better engage with youth leaders on sustainable innovation? And what I liked about this is the part that says better engage with youth leaders on sustainable innovation, because sometimes you can have these very big PR moves that can look like a great innovation, but the big question is, what Maximo said, is it consistent? Is it sustainable? So anybody can answer this. Maybe we'll go with you, Maximo, because we heard the ladies too.
Yeah, I think we're in a point that greenwashing doesn't work anymore. It's like, it's even like dying slowly because of the power of communication that the people that is outside have. No, we do a video and you have 100,000 views. You don't need the big media anymore. You have much more reach than the traditional communication systems. So I was hearing what my colleague here was saying. Last year we launched a study that says that 0.7, more or less, of all the funding of philanthropy about climate change goes to youth. Only 0.7. And everyone is doing panels about youth, everyone is organizing stuff about youth, everyone is doing a lot of those stuff, but it's like a youth washing. You are not giving the resources. This is about philanthropy, but if you go to companies, you will have also numbers that youth needs much more resources. The new president in Argentina, I think that you know that he doesn't believe in climate change. He's very famous right now. He spent almost nothing in his campaign using youth resources. His whole communication team, he communication manager of the whole team of the campaign is 27-year-old. Everything is social media, and he won the elections against the system that spent so many money of the state to keep in the government. They use the youth tools. So here, what I'm hearing is that maybe there's a little bit of fear in investing in youth. They already proved that if you give some, they do, they transform everything. They have energy, they have capacity, they get together in 1 minute. They don't have barriers, traditional barriers. They are globalized. There are no conflicts in all the traditional stuff of conflict, no? We all want to go to the same place. So how can you control that crowd if you give a lot of resources? That from one side. Another side, what I'm seeing working with so many companies is that, yes, a lot of youth is involved inside the companies. It's not the only one that are outside in civil society. A lot of youth, the most important companies in the world, they have youth CEOs, directors, no, unicorns. But what I see is that in business world, yes, youth, youth, youth. But if you are not in the business world, I don't know if I'm going to give you the resources. So we can talk about this a lot of hours, no? But that's a reflection I was having here in the conversation.
So Maximo, you think if we want, it's as simple as just that 0.7 becoming double, triple, quadruple, and it's going to suddenly change everything?
It will be like how you say, a spark when
Yeah.
it's off. We already see what we can do. I'm doing this since 15 years ago. I remember when we were only 20 doing a manifestation, a strike about agrotoxics. And once the communication system changed with social media, etc., in 2018, 2019, we passed from being only 20 in front of Congress to be 100,000, to be millions out there. So we already have tools that the last generation didn't have. We are so innovative. We have technology. We have much more power than we think. And right now, we are lack of resources. The day they have resources, I already heard so many people want to go to political parties, youth, this COP. They are saying, oh, why we are seeing everything from the outside? Why we don't go to political parties now? Why we need them? If we can start a political party with almost nothing, if we have the social media, we have the power of the communication, this is happening worldwide. So what we need to do is not a competition or a war against generations. No. All in the same table, let's really work together, thinking with more or less a new paradigm where we are all seeing the same picture, because if we are investing in things that the new ones don't want, and they will, how do you say, when you write something with your hand and you raise it with your elbow, no? They will come, and they will do things differently. So let's work it together in a good way, with a good intention.
Elizabeth, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the best way to support and work with youth is that lately we are seeing youth getting very organized in youth groups, in youth associations and youth federations at national level, regional and continental level. But also in the mainstream farmers' organizations, we also have youth structures within those organizations. So I think the best way is also to support youth through the youth organizations, and where they don't exist, then they can be supported through the mainstream farmers' organizations. Because youth have also invested in governance structures. They've also invested in putting together professional management systems. And so it's important that we respect some of those structures that are being created by the youth and that represent them. But also, youth, we need to continue building the capacity of youth and also their skills. Our experience has shown that youth are more interested, for example, in short value chains. They're also not interested so much in the production bit. They want to engage in the higher value chains, the higher parts of the value chains, because they're not so much interested in making their hands dirty. But they're good at technologies, they're good at marketing, logistics, agro-processing, and so forth. So I think we also need to identify some of those parts of the value chain where they are concentrated, and then we engage them more. But also in terms of the innovations and the technologies, they're a bit small. They're still small, and also they are isolated. There are few isolated cases of those successful technologies. So we need to identify them. We need to identify, see where they are, be able to profile them so that we can put them to scale and make sure that we have the required investments that are needed to be put in those innovations. And this is where the private sector actually plays a very key role, because there's a better understanding of business from the private sector aspect. So it's important that they handhold the youth in terms of scaling some of those innovations. We had a project that was supporting youth on rural youth access to financing. But the challenges we were getting from the youth, and that the challenges that we know, obviously, coming from Africa. One of the challenges for youth is access to land, for example. They have the user rights, but they don't have ownership rights, especially in Africa. And so it becomes very difficult for the youth to be able to access financing. So how do we make sure that we have innovative ways of access to financing for the youth? Most of the youth have good ideas. How do we make sure that we support them to come up with bankable proposals?
Yes.
Then how do we make sure that we also link them
To the right financial
to the financial service providers? When we did scooping studies within the region in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, we realized that there is a lot of money that is seated in different organizations for supporting youth. But the youth are not accessing that money. And it's also because they are not aware that there is money seated in different institutions to support them. So how do we make sure that we also try to profile some of that existing financing and be able to put that information before the youth? I know we've supported, for example, over 12,000 youth to be able to come up with bankable proposals. We've also gone a step in partnership with FAO to create a platform for the youth, AYA platform, Africa Youth in Agribusiness platform, where the youth can, share opportunities, they can interact with each other, they can also learn from each other. So we need to see platforms coming up for youth to support youth to be able to see several opportunities where they can share information on some of these models and technologies and innovations that are working. And we've also linked more than 40 youth associations to funding. It's either through SACCOs, the Savings and Credit Associations, the banks, the development partners. And so far, I think in total, we've also supported about 770 youth groups. Yeah.
May I ask anybody who's speaking to please just little lower so that they can speak? Thank you. Okay. I have, I think, around 6 to 8 minutes. This is, I'm making it up, by the way, but I know I don't have much time, so I'm going to end with 2 questions. Maximo and Haya. So Maximo, where do you think the greatest impact can be made in supporting youth climate action? And what do you hear from the youth you engage with about what they need to be successful? So it's 2 questions. I can repeat each one separately. But the first one, where do you think the greatest impact can be made in supporting youth climate action?
Money. Resources. That's the principal barrier. Of course, we can mention a lot more. I work with youth my whole life, or adult. Well, my whole life, yes. I've been children and then youth and then young adults. All the time we face the same problem. We have amazing ideas. We have, as I said, energy, capacity, everything, and then the money sometimes we don't have that. And because we live in a system where you need financial resources, we cannot scale the projects or these ideas. That's why everywhere we go, instead of giving 3, 5, 10 messages, I give only one. Please invest in youth. It's the best investment we can do ever. It's the best renewable energy, youth. So let's invest in youth, and with the intention of a better world, like very cliche. Not anymore. No, we don't need fancy words and stuff. Like, it's out there. You give a little resources and it's a spark. It's like, boom, they do so much. For example, now we launch the Youth Climate Justice Fund. that we give small grants, no? And it's not that everyone asks for 100K, 500K. No, they just like, we need 10K, 15K. And with that, you give a push. You're like a wind, especially in the global south, no? And especially in countries like Argentina, where the dollar is a lot if you transform it into pesos. So yeah, it's like, be there, push and give all the resources we can. We give money, they will start doing, and they will bring solutions. They will bring solutions.
And the second part, what do you hear from the youth that you engage with about what they need to be successful? Is it the same thing?
Money, all the
Money.
time. Since I arrived, I don't know with how many youth I met this year and last year. I work all day with youth. I am a youth leader ambassador in United Nations Development Program. All day I'm with youth. And the number one barrier is money. All the other things are out there. You can educate yourself online. Of course, there are some people that don't have access to internet, but there's money, resources that we need to provide that. But the number one barrier, I already did this study many times, is money. So let's see how from the corporate world, from the individual world, from whatever type of world, we can invent, or whatever is the synonym in English, new mechanisms to provide this kind of support, and in the most efficient way. That's another thing. Bureaucracy, not everyone at the youth has the legal papers, the organization established, so many things that, I cannot send you the money. We need to invent new ways to transfer money in the quickest way so they can start working, because that's the good thing. It's one click and they're already ongoing. It's amazing. When we say they, we, all together, it's a spirit to be youth, no? But that's more or less the idea. Money. I don't want to talk about many things. Money is the big thing here. Money. That's my humble message.
Please.
If you'd allow me to disagree.
Okay.
I will not disagree in the sense of disagreement, but I want to go back to the basics on understanding what the youth need. And I think the first thing that you guys are doing very well is listening to youth themselves and asking them what do they need. And if we see what are the priorities of youth, and we're, with all honesty, if someone's hungry, sustainability is the last thing they want to talk about. If someone cannot afford to put a roof on their heads, they will not talk about climate change. They can't care less. Someone will go to buy a plastic bottle of water. They won't think of a glass bottle of water if they can barely afford clean drinking water. So yes, money is needed. Money is always the answer, I guess. But the percentage of funding to youth is low for a reason. And that reason is, if you're an investor, this is a high-risk investment because this person is young, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the experience. I do understand the reluctance, but that doesn't mean that you should not invest. If we look at from a corporate and a private sector perspective, we need skills, and we need skilled employees to join the workforce. So if you can't, and then a lot of the things are said, the fresh graduates lack the skills. They lack the skills. You need skilled laborers. Let's come up with programs, invest in programs that would upskill these youth to make sure that you are increasing their employability rate. They have great ideas. They have great ideas, and they're willing to start their own startups. And you're scared that they're not gonna know what to do with this money. They're gonna waste this money. Invest in programs, invest in accelerators, just as the one we've just heard about. Invest in these incubator programs that would ensure you're capitalizing on the energy that the youth have without risking your own investments a lot. So it's not, I wish the answer is as simple as that, but I do think it's a full chain. You have the accelerator program, you have the skilled workers. Can you give them a bit of access to your supply chains? Maybe they need one big contract to kick off their next great endeavor. The reluctance to invest in direct funds is understandable, but that does not mean a reluctance in investment in youth themselves. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, I think we have 2 minutes probably. Haya, what is one thing that you want the world to know about engaging youth in climate action? And I want to ask everybody, so each person has a minute on this.
Okay. I think
I added a minute by the
if you've been to COP28, you've seen youth. You've seen people sitting on the floors, small working groups, running in the sun. If they don't really care, they would not have invested so much energy, so much time, and so much of their own effort to make a difference. So I want you to know that they actually care, and they're actually putting effort. And when they ask for top-down approaches, they are already making the investments from their own side. And finally, climate change and climate action is not one-dimensional. And this is not only for youth, this is for everyone. Climate change will affect our economics, our economy. Climate change will affect our cultural. It will affect our societies. So if we look at it as a silo in itself, it sounds like it's a luxurious program. It's a luxurious topic, or the topic of the well. But in fact, it is cross-sectorial and is going to affect us in all pillars if we don't attend to it.
Maximo.
You first? Me? Okay. Youth. How was the question? Sorry.
I'll ask it to you. What is one thing that you want the world to know about engaging youth in climate action?
Okay, yesterday I was talking with someone that said something that I heard before, that AI is like the meteor that comes with the dinosaurs. Remember, that's going to change everything. For me, climate change and the climate crisis and ecological crisis is that meteor that is changing everything. And there's so many youth that are worried, really worried, like from the heart worried. And they are willing to put everything they have of the future, this life, that for some is only one life, to do something to change the situation and to have a more justice, equal, and all the good synonyms, diverse world. So if they are willing to do that, we just need to help. I agree with what you said. We need capacitation, development skills, and all of that. What I heard a lot is that all that without money. At some point, you capacitate, you skill, etc. But without the money, and with the money, you can have all that. You can give money and do the accelerator. You can give money, and comes the money with the condition of, hey, let's educate or do something like that. Or sometimes without condition, that's what we prefer better in our case. But yes, there's a lot of people willing to do something to change this situation. That's what I hear every day, and I love that because that gives me hope.
Yes.
So there's hope in youth.
Elizabeth.
I think mine is to say that we need to listen to the youth. We need to give them a platform. We need to give them a voice. Because we've talked about all these innovations and the technologies that they are good at. But if we are not listening to them, then we are not able to understand the powerhouse that the youth have. So let's give them that platform where they can speak on their behalf. Thank you.
You know, before ending, I remembered something while I was listening to you. And it's a nice way of looking at things. So let's imagine there is a board meeting with 10 people. A committee, right? A committee of anything. Just imagine the ratio. So let's say we have a committee now of 10 people, 10 adults that are above 50, okay? Now, if we get one youth in that board of 10 people, it's a token. You're like, yeah, we have a youth. It's a token. If you get 2 youth, it's a minority. If you get 3, at least, it's a change. And I think that's what we want to do out of some discussion like this, is of listening to you, how the platform is needed, how the financial is needed, how the training is needed. And a lot of you guys are saying you have to solve what you said, hey, with the present, not with old solutions. So the moment you have that investment and that faith in the right competent youth, which I'm sure there are plenty of, get a bunch of them because you're going to cause change. So thank you for your time. Thank you.